You've just opened the soup can. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the many flavors we offer as we ask Soup No O. Hello and welcome back to the Soup Can. This is the start of season 2. I took some time off, but now I'm glad to be back. And with me today, I'm doing something different. I've added a guest via Zoom. I have obviously the one and only Tyler Makins, but I've added Brian to the once a month wrestling podcast. I figured that was a great way to kick off season 2. I'm your host, Campbell's, and I'm here to ask the burning question, Soup No O with everything. Again, Brian, Tyler, thank you for coming on and coming into the Soup Can, obviously via Zoom. But today we're going to talk about some wrestling stuff, and we're going to jump right in. One of the biggest things that's going on in the wrestling world right now is the list is long of the talent that WWE has released recently. I've jotted down a few names to touch on. We've got obviously Ric Flair, who was just released and showed up in the AAA match against Andrade versus Omega and interfered in that. We have Aleister Black, who is now Malachi Black in AEW. The biggest name, in my opinion, Bray Wyatt. We had Tyler Breeze and Fandango, Lana, and Ruby Riott, just to name a few. I'll stop talking here for a second and get you. Let's start with Tyler. What are your thoughts on the releasing of the young talent that WWE has?
Well, I really don't understand it. I mean, I'm sure this has been said 1,000 times at this point. I don't personally understand it because I feel like WWE's just been raking in the money the past couple of years. So to say that they're cutting these people for budgetary reasons seems a little strange to me. So I'm sure there's something going on in the inside that we don't see. And maybe they're gearing up for some sort of big move, but it just seems a little strange to me. And I don't think all these people are going to be gone forever. Bray Wyatt being the prime example, just because I don't think his character works anywhere else. I don't think anybody else has the budget or the grandiose scale to make that character what it is. And obviously WWE owns the name Bray Wyatt. That's not his given name or anything like that. So I think his was more of a see you later than a goodbye. And reports are that he's kind of had a tough time ever since Brody Lee's passing last year. And so yeah, I just think he'll end up being back at some point. He's too creative of a guy and too strong of a talent to let go long term. But maybe he just needs some time off to kind of rejigger things and just get his head together, which I totally understand and respect.
And I know Bray Wyatt is one of the more creative guys in recent years, and he did post a cryptic thing on the Twitter, kind of had like a silhouette or something of the Fiend or something that looked like the Fiend, but it said you cannot kill him. So to echo your point, Tyler, he may be back in WWE, which again, the Fiend and Bray Wyatt is owned by the WWE. Brian, what's your take on the young talent and creative talent that WWE is releasing in droves?
Well, it's like Tyler said, I really don't understand it either because, NXT is their developmental league. So you have all these superstars, and yet Triple H, Vince McMahon trusted Triple H to create all these stars and then get them into the main roster. But another problem is once they're on the main roster, they're buried. There's so many people that have made it to the main roster have been buried. It's absolutely sickening. But Bray Wyatt is one. Samoa Joe was recently re-signed by WWE after he was released. So you could see that with Bray Wyatt. That could happen, but time will tell on that. Who knows?
Yeah,
and who knows what Bray Wyatt is going through.
Right.
So,
and I know in a lot of wrestling circles, Aleister Black, Bray Wyatt, it's like mind-boggling why the WWE is releasing all these people. I know there was rumor that Ruby Riott is rumored to make her AEW appearance at their next pay-per-view. That's all rumor right now, but I always felt she was underused in WWE, her and the Riot Squad. They were one of the better tag teams. Aleister Black, the way he did it by not having the no compete, he just showed up out of nowhere on a Dynamite, and that was pretty impressive.
Absolutely. Aleister Black they actually were starting to do a program with him, and he had all these vignettes lined up, and then all of a sudden he's released, and then he shows up on AEW, and he's one of their top guys now. I can see him eventually challenging Omega for a championship down the line for sure.
That would be great. Tyler, we're gonna get you to the AEW side, man, because you told me I have the text to prove it. You said Raw was what did you say it was? A shit show or a bore? Or
I think my exact words were can't blame you for falling asleep during Raw because holy shit is that show a stinker.
Direct quote from Tyler.
He's not wrong.
Real quick, like one of the highlights for WWE, what they have going on right now, Baron Corbin. quick
Absolutely.
Sidetrack. Baron Corbin, it's like that guy as a performer knows how to embrace a gimmick.
Yeah, he goes all in. Yeah.
And I had Baron Corbin in my notes actually because I definitely wanted to hit on him because
for sure
I've been a Baron Corbin fan for a long time. Like I loved his heel work back when he was like United States champion. He had that gross long hair and everything like that. I was a fan of his for a while. I didn't particularly care for the King gimmick as much. I think that was kind of running its course, but I'm glad that they did it because that kind of led us to where we are now with, his big fall from the top down to the bottom where he is now. I think that's been super entertaining. Coming in with a more wrinkled shirt every time. You got stains all over the place. But the thing is he's not being like crazy sympathetic because he's going out there, he's asking guys, oh, I just need 100,000. Can you just spot me 100,000? It's like, dude, what are you talking about? I just think he's great.
He's definitely a bright spot, especially because he's on the SmackDown brand. And there's few and far between things that I look forward to with WWE. Baron Corbin's one of them. His stuff is great. And RK Bro.
Yeah. RK Bro.
Yes. And they have a tag title shot, and we'll touch on that. I can see Lana jumping ship when her non-compete is up. I think she was released a little while ago. But again, I've taken time off and haven't been able to touch base on any of this stuff. What do you guys think of AEW Rampage starting up last Friday? It's not directly going head to head with WWE SmackDown because it starts at 10 p.m. I don't know if that's going to be its given time slot for the foreseeable future, but starting when SmackDown ends, it's another alternative for people to watch wrestling afterwards. What was Tyler? I don't know if you watched.
I did not. I missed it, but I have a couple of friends that watched it, and they told me it was really good because I believe it's only an hour show, right?
Right.
So it was just boom, 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 matches after matches, and it didn't really mess around with anything, which I think is cool.
And they crowned a new Impact World Champion in Christian Cage.
I did see that. The captain,
Captain Charisma. Brian, what's your take on another wrestling show in an already stacked viewing market for wrestling shows with Monday, Wednesday, 2 shows on Friday now, and NXT just moved to Tuesday? A couple months back, they moved to Tuesday.
NXT, yeah.
With only Thursday not having a wrestling show, what both of your guys, I'll start with Brian, your opinion on another wrestling show, and Brian, you can give your feedback on Rampage, your feedback on another wrestling show coming into an already stacked market.
Yeah, that's the one thing that AEW has to be careful of because of the oversaturation of wrestling now. But adding another show, they also have to be careful that it doesn't end up like Thunder, like WCW Thunder and Nitro. Mm-hmm. So it can be too much, but with the talent they have and that they've been accruing, it could get to another level, especially with the rumors of CM Punk He might be showing up along with Ruby Riott. So that remains to be seen. So,
Tyler, what's your take on another wrestling show coming in?
Well, you guys know I'm mostly a WWE guy. I find it so hard to keep up with all this wrestling, and I'm also just a huge movies and television guy as well. So I got a lot of stuff to watch that I like to keep up with. So it's tough for me. Yeah, it's tough for me to kind of keep up with all the different wrestling shows. But I will say that with AEW just continually signing all these really good people, they're starting to get a really deep roster, so they need time and space to really showcase their talent. And if they have the market to put on that second show, and it's just an hour, so it's not that much TV to fill, I think that's good for them. That's a good sign for AEW. It's a good sign for the wrestling business that it's staying strong enough to support another show.
And it being on Friday nights, I'm usually busy, out on Friday nights or what have you.
You're a popular guy, man. I mean, just look at you.
I know. I've already got guests on a show. This is unprecedented in the Soup Can. But with streaming services and things like that, I know you can rewatch Rampage and Dynamite on the Hulu, which is good because they also look at that for ratings too, not just when people watch it live. But in my opinion is the market is getting a little oversaturated, and like Tyler said, and it's becoming hard to follow everything.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess another point I wanted to make kind of along those lines is that I missed the first show, but if they keep it something that's like somewhat different and a little just different presentation, maybe different style of matches, that could be another way to just keep people engaged if you have a slightly different product. I mean, obviously it's still going to be wrestling at the end of the day, but if you can present it in a slightly different way, it'll keep things fresh.
And I'm not
absolutely, I agree.
I was hoping for a Thursday show, to be honest with you, because I don't do much on Thursdays. Fridays, it's like it's the weekend, man.
Absolutely. I usually work on Fridays anyway. So if I'm watching anything, I'm just fast forwarding, watching on the DVR. So yeah.
And that's another good point. The last thing I'll say on AEW is that it's not that easy to access, like that Raw, SmackDown, NXT, they all drop on Hulu like next day. I can catch them if I'm not there to see the live show, which I'm usually not. So because I work nights mostly, so when I'm in the office, I'm going to be there when the show is airing. So I think that kind of hinders me from catching AEW a lot, is that it's just a lot harder to access. You got to go onto the TNT app, you got to log in with your TV info and all this and that. Then it's got commercials still. I can't do commercials. It's 2021.
Absolutely.
Brian, gonna have to get you actually in the Soup Can one of these days.
Sounds good to me. I'm down with that, man.
Still waiting for Tyler to get back up here. I know you were in town for something.
I only got a couple visits in me per year, man.
I know, man. Tough. But hey, I can go on location. I'll go record down in Georgia, man.
Hey, I'll be down with that. I'll be down with that for sure.
All right.
Tyler, I know you said last thing you'll say in AEW, but I do want to get your opinion on the rumors going around. Brian briefly touched on it, and we'll come back to him as well. But CM Punk and Daniel Bryan rumored to have already signed with AEW and with the second episode of Rampage in Chicago. Does CM Punk make his debut there with Daniel Bryan or just by himself? And what's your take on those two potentially going to AEW at stage in their career?
Yeah. Obviously very exciting, if they can land those two are the biggest whales in the pond right now, so if they can get those two guys, then I'm gonna have to find a way to watch AEW. Like that'll get me the more casual, not more casual wrestling fan, but the more WWE oriented wrestling fan. That'll get me to definitely cross over, because I mean CM Punk back on wrestling television, like that's must see TV for a wrestling fan. You're gonna have to make it happen.
Exactly. Like, who's not going to tune in for CM Punk on, like you just said, Tyler, on wrestling TV?
Right.
Brian, what's your take on those two? Again, at this point in their career, I think this would be both of their swan songs, few appearances a year. I don't want to say a few, but a handful, maybe a couple times a month. They're definitely not going to
like Edge now.
They're definitely not going to be full time, but they're not going to be like Goldberg. They're going to be more, like you said, Tyler, like Edge. They are going to show up. They're going to wrestle. But Brian, your feedback on those two going to AEW, possibly because nothing's confirmed yet at this stage in their career.
I'm echoing Tyler. I think it's exciting. And to have like those two talent potentially come to AEW, that's a big get for AEW. And it makes it more exciting when CM Punk is hinting, especially on his Twitter, hinting at like signing with AEW. And then he just recently said on his UFC show that was all elite, like about a move or something like that. So all these hints that CM Punk, I mean, he's trolled the fans before, but it just gets me thinking like you're probably already signed with AEW, and with All In being in Chicago, I mean, that's the time is ripe for CM Punk to go there. So I'm excited. I think it's a huge, big deal for AEW. So,
and like you said, with the trolling going on last couple weeks or the last few weeks, ever since CM Punk stuff leaked, Darby Allin has made references to the best in the world, or something to that ilk, with centered around CM Punk. So, but I think AEW is definitely still up and coming, in my opinion. It's definitely hit the ground running. It's been out for well over a year. They continue to grow. They're continuing to sign talent. Tyler touched on this. Their roster is so big. They've acquired so much talent. They do need that other outlet to get these guys on TV. AEW Dark is okay, but I don't watch it on the YouTubes. I don't know if you do.
I don't either.
See, and you're a big AEW guy. Tyler, you probably don't even know what it is.
I know things. I know some stuff.
All right. That covers all the rumors and the firings and all that stuff. Now on to the coup de grace, and not Finn Balor's move, which he's been shafted, which drives me nuts.
I was about to say, I wish we were talking Finn Balor today.
Oh, man, I wish we were. But SummerSlam is what really brings the three of us together for the Soup Can Wrestling edition. SummerSlam, according to the card that I pulled up, has 10 confirmed matches. I'm not sure what's on the pre-show, possibly 11. Brian, Tyler, if you guys have heard anything about the rumored Finn Balor versus Corbin match being added to the card, I don't know. That's the rumored one. We are.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything at all yet. So,
okay. And we are recording. Disclaimer: we are recording on the Wednesday before the Friday Night SmackDown, so things are tentative to change, as every wrestling card. But how do you guys want to do this? Do you want to jump right into the card and the predictions, or do you want to? I have a note here that I'd like to touch on. WWE relying on the old guard, so to speak, as opposed to young talent in big matches, or do you want to run through all that and talk about it at the same time? Because they kind of go hand in hand with some of the matches that SummerSlam does have lined up.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. We can just talk to them when we hit their match,
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Then we'll save that for the end, and we'll touch on some of the not so big matches. Let's start with the rumored match of Finn and Corbin. If that match does take place, be it on the pre-show or the actual event, I would pick Finn to win that, only because of the what Corbin did to him, and Corbin's really down on his luck. But to touch on that a little bit more, and I'll let you guys chime in. Finn Balor comes back to the main roster, challenges Roman Reigns. They have the contract signing. Corbin jumps in, which, don't get me wrong, that was hilarious. I would have loved for him to sign the contract. But now Finn Balor's kind of fallen out of the main event again. And that kind of goes with the pushing of NXT talent on the main roster being lost in mid-card obscurity. I think it could be a good match. They're both great in the ring. My pick would be Finn Balor for that one to win. Your guys' thoughts on that one? Tyler, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we need to spend too much time on this one because I don't even know if it necessarily happens because we just had this match on SmackDown, like 2 weeks ago. It was the week after they had they did the whole run-in. And I don't think, if I'm remembering right from SmackDown last week, I don't think they had Balor. Yeah, it was KO that came out and fought Baron Corbin. So I don't think they would bring Balor back to that. I think, unfortunately, he's just not going to be on the show this weekend.
Okay. Brian?
If that match were to happen, I think Finn Balor goes over, like you said, Billy. Just the way they set up Finn the past couple weeks as well. But it's kind of a shame that he's not on the SummerSlam program because he's a huge talent. Right. He's over with the fans. So, to have him at some kind of match on SummerSlam, that, I don't know, that's a hit to WWE. I don't get that at all.
Yeah, I agree with both your points. Probably should have started with this match, but I didn't see it on my list till just now. A match that no one needs to see other than for eye candy: Alexa Bliss versus Eva Marie. Now, I could be wrong if that wasn't confirmed. I did not finish watching Raw this past month.
Yeah, that's confirmed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I have nothing. I don't care. I'm picking.
Again, Eva Marie should not be on television. Eva Marie is one of the worst wrestlers I've ever seen in my life. And
I totally agree.
Alexa Bliss was probably my favorite wrestler from 2016 to 17 or so, when she was just cooking as a heel, winning titles, winning the Money in the Bank. She was at the top of her game. She's one of my favorites, and she's doing great. She's working with what they're giving her, but what they're giving her is
she did post on Twitter that she's just having fun. And to go with what you both agreed on, she's one of the worst, Eva Marie being one of the worst wrestlers. I follow her on the Instagram, and she's a beast in the gym. But when it comes to performing in the ring, she's nope.
No, I'm not even invested in the match. It's it's pretty much a filler at this point.
Exactly. So I'm just gonna put all three of us down for Bliss just because nobody cares. And props to Bliss for having fun and turning dog crap into something, but nobody
actually put me down for Eva Marie. I hate Eva Marie, but she's gonna win with chicanery. I think there's gonna be some nonsense, and I can already see her celebrating, doing, oh yeah, look at me at the end. So put me down for Eva Marie as much as the thing.
All right. The next match, I haven't minded the build to this. I thought it's been pretty solid. I like seeing Drew McIntyre out of the title picture for now because we all know he'll get back there. But to my knowledge, Drew versus Jinder Mahal is confirmed, and that's taking place at SummerSlam this Saturday. Like I said, the build's been great. These two go back a long way. I think.
See, okay, sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, I disagree that the build has been great because they have not touched on any of that history. Not at all. The announcers a little bit, but in the story, they haven't touched on any of it. It's all about this stupid sword. And it's what do you think? You're not going to go out there and stab somebody. All right, it's been stupid.
Maybe it's because I know these guys will put on a decent match given their size.
With that, I agree with. I agree with. I love Drew. I love Jinder, but I just think this story has been so kind of lame.
My take on this is I thought the build's been all right. I'm going to go. I think Jinder's going to get the rub on this one, and Drew's finally going to take time off, which is much needed. Brian, what's your take on this match?
I'm just not. It's another match that it's a match that was just pretty much thrown together, and only because Jinder has come back and they needed a feud with him, so they put him with Drew. So I agree with Tyler. The whole sword thing is so lame.
Gonna argue that.
I mean, yeah, it's just. I think Drew gets over, but I can see Billy. I can see your point where Jinder gets over somehow, and then Drew takes some time off. I can totally see that too.
I don't know if you've watched a couple of the previous ones with episodes with Tyler, but we both have agreed on multiple shows that Drew needs time off. So he needs.
Right. That's what I was about to say, is that we've been saying this for months and it still hasn't happened. And now he's actually starting to get over with the fans in the mid card, with his 3-2-1 chant. Like, I think that's been good. So I don't know if he actually takes time off after this. Like, I think he might just kind of bounce around in the mid card for a little bit. Maybe around Royal Rumble start.
Dude's a workhorse, man. Dude's a workhorse. Tyler, you got Drew going over or Jinder?
I think I got Drew going over just because I don't think Jinder has been built up enough as a heel yet. But I think Jinder's time is going to come. I'm a big Jinder fan. I loved him when he was the champ a couple years back. And I think he gets another shot, just kind of build back up as a nice monster heel, because the guy can go. He can work. He's good on the mic. He's got a great look, obviously. Like, it's cool.
And the moving to the last of the non-title matches on this card, Seth Rollins versus Edge. Now,
woo, baby.
Now, Seth Rollins in one of my wrestling chats, we all agree whatever this version of Seth Rollins is hot garbage.
What?
Yeah,
really?
we're not digging it so much. This is not the best. I get the story with Seth taking away the shot from Edge. Edge needed something to do because they held out the money for him and he got his title shots and didn't win. But something I don't even have a prediction for this match because it's just kind of, they're gonna put on a great match. The match is gonna be great.
Yeah.
But
I think Edge will win just because he hasn't really gone over yet since he's been back, except for, I guess, versus Orton last year. But I think he probably needs this one a little more than Rollins. And but I can't believe you don't like this Seth Rollins character. I think this has been some of his best work with the ridiculous suits and the gloves.
Suits, but that's about it.
Oh man, I think he's been great with his kind of like a televangelist. I think Edge even called him a televangelist the other day.
That's what he looks like. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been great. He's just a cult leader, He's just that David Koresh kind of guy.
Seth is so much better than that.
I don't know. Yeah, I think he's best as a heel, so I think this is good for him. Sorry, Brian, didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay. Yeah, it's all good, man. I think this match could steal the show. They can put on a really lit match. So I think Edge gets over. Only because he has to at this point, with the Royal Rumble win and not getting over at WrestleMania. So I mean, you got to get him a win here. So
yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking Edge on this one too. I think I don't know if I said Seth, but I don't really have an opinion. The match is going to be great. It's going to be, like Brian said, it has potential to steal the show.
You didn't like that video package they ran for him with where he was in the control room yelling at him, and then they're basically Seth Rollins has done everything better than Edge. I was laughing my ass off during that. I thought it was great.
It's moments, but I mean I love heel Seth. I just think there's more to what he can do than this.
Okay, what iteration do you think has been better?
I when he turned on the Shield was great.
Okay, I'll give you that. I think that was better. But I mean, that's like some all-time heel work right there. When he went with the Authority, that was some all-timer stuff.
All right,
but I'll give it to you. We'll agree to disagree.
There you go. We'll agree to disagree, and we'll see. When we recap on next month's wrestling show, we'll see. Now we've got a plethora of title matches. We've got every title is on the line except I believe the IC title. Go right into the U.S. title. Sheamus versus Damien Priest. I kind of hope Sheamus gets over because I've never been too big on Damien Priest since he's been called up.
Wow, really?
I preface that.
Oh my goodness.
He's been called up. All that Bugs Bunny work that he did was just nonsense.
Well, I'll give it to you there with the bunny stuff, but I really like
Damien Priest was something.
That's the only time that he's been over since he's been up is when he was with the bunny. Are you kidding? The bunny made Damien Priest. He's been horrible ever since, I think. Dude can't do a promo. He does the same matches every week.
The whole shoot an arrow. Don't just do the motion.
Wow. Okay.
If America's Most Wanted can can shoot water, then you could get like a
Oh my
Nerf gun or
gosh.
something.
Oh,
John Morrison is a national treasure. I have that written down
oh
in my
my
notes.
God.
I
John
love
Morrison
John
is
Morrison.
great.
That's
Fantastic.
But I get the the build has been solid for this. It's a constant two guys going at it. Damien Priest and Sheamus. Damien Priest coming down to help whoever Sheamus is beating up at the time, and building the feud that way. I think this is a loss for Sheamus. Does not hurt his stacked career of accomplishments. I think Damien Priest gets the rub on this one, and I think he goes over and wins his first title. And I'm not the biggest fan of Priest, but maybe him going over Sheamus, he'll get that crowd pop. He'll tweak his gimmick a little
Will
bit,
he?
but I think Damien Priest gets the rub here.
I do too. I think Damien Priest wins his first championship. I've always liked Damien Priest. I've liked him since he was in ROH. So I'm going with Priest here. So, yep.
I'd like to see more of his work, just because I feel like he's been kind of put in a box a little bit, just basically working with Miz and Morrison ever since he's been called up. So I'd like to see him, and Sunday will be a great opportunity to see him against another opponent, just to see what he can do. Because I feel like his ring work is probably good, but I do not like him on the mic. I just think he sounds kind of lost out there, in my opinion.
I think working with Sheamus will help him here too. Sheamus is he's a great in-ring worker.
Mm-hmm.
So working with Sheamus, I think will kind of help him elevate his game a little bit. So
yeah.
Both good takes on the match. Tyler, you're taking Priest as well?
Yeah.
All right. Just want to make sure I wrote that down. We've got both tag team championships in my recollection, for the first time in a long time, being defended on the card. They may be moved to the pre-show, but I don't think the Raw tag team is. I think that AJ and Omos.
No, Randy Orton's not going on the
Randy
pre-show.
Orton
There's
ain't
no
going on
chance.
I agree with you. That's not going on a pre-show.
The Raw tag team match, we got AJ and one of the coolest big men in a long time in Omos versus Team RK Bro. I think I'll let you guys talk more about this, but my opinion is, like you said, Omos is he does all the traditional big man stuff. He can move. He's just menacing. He gives that nasty look from the corner when he's not in the ring. But I think RK Bro gets the rub here, because I remember reading that Randy Orton's pretty big on Riddle, and this is just going to further Team RK Bro, because it's so over with the fans, and RK Bro, in my opinion, becomes the Raw Tag Team Champions.
That's what I have too. I have in my notes here, I have RK Bro winning the title. AJ, you got all that talent. AJ, Riddle, Orton, and then of course the Monster. They're going to put on a great show. They're going to put on an excellent tag team match. So this, with RK Bro being, like you said, being over with the fans, I think RK Bro gets the win. They'll get the titles here.
Tyler, your take on this? Are you RK Bro?
I'm gonna go with RK Bro, just because, I think they're so over, like you guys have been saying, and I think this is like their chance to get the belts on them, because I don't know how long they'll stay a team for.
Right.
Just because I think Orton and Riddle are going to be so strong as singles competitors. I mean, Orton obviously is, but I think Riddle could win the Royal Rumble coming up this year, just because he's so over, and I think him teaming with Orton will kind of bring out more of his serious side in the ring. I think he's still going to be goofy and fun on the promos and everything like that. But I think I think they're going to be setting up for big things with Riddle. But I definitely want to touch on AJ Styles and Omos, because I think they've been fantastic since they've been a team. AJ Styles is my favorite wrestler, has been for a long time now, a good couple of years.
Here.
Yeah, he's phenomenal, literally. I mean, he's phenomenal.
Yeah, literally.
But we all know that about AJ Styles. But Omos, man, that guy can go. He is so fucking intimidating. He can move so fast for a guy his size. He played college basketball, so his measurements are out there. He's a legit 7'3", dude is enormous. I was at WrestleMania this year, and I was on the floor, but still a decent amount back, and I could see this dude clear as day. Like he is a monster, and I just love watching him work, man. I don't know what they're gonna do with him if him and Styles break up after this. If they lose the belts, I don't think he's ready to go on his own yet. But that match against Orton on Raw, I just watched it, and man, I am super impressed with that guy. And I took in my notes, like, where do you think Omos already ranks among like the list of giants? Like Andre, Big Show, Undertaker, Kane, Diesel are obviously like in their own kind of class. Like those are the big names that I immediately think of. But like he's already 10 times better than the Great Khali. He's better than Mabel, Viscera, whatever you want to call him.
For sure.
Like he's up there. Like he's great. I'm super impressed with this guy.
I agree with you. Yes, absolutely.
And like you said, Tyler, you can't lump him with those other greats. They're in a league of their own. But as far as like Great Khali, Giant Gonzalez, other Mabel, other big men like that, yeah, I would put him above some of those cats. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But like you said, I agree. Brian, you might agree with this. He's not ready to go on his own yet. I know I'm riding the high of RK Bro. I could also see RK Bro splitting up for good.
Yes. I think absolutely with Riddle working with Randy, he's going to learn a lot from Randy Orton, picking his brain. Absolutely. And I could see almost an AJ like going the distance as a tag team. I can see almost turning on AJ somewhere down the line. I don't know about now, but I can see them splitting up, maybe sometime like early next year for the Rumble. But
that could be. Staying with the tag teams, not so much appeal here because it's hard to top the four guys we just talked about, even though one of the guys is Rey Mysterio. But the SmackDown tag team titles are also on the line being defended on SummerSlam. We have the Mysterios versus the Usos. It's a tough, in my opinion, tough one to call. The build has been pretty solid from what I've seen. You've got, the Usos back together, Jimmy and Jay, and they've been feuding the last few weeks, in singles matches and various other things backstage with the Mysterios. I don't know if the Mysterios are going to get their belts back or if the Usos retain. I'll weigh in my prediction after I hear your guys' thoughts. Tyler, what do you take on this one?
I think this is going to be a fantastic match. I love the Usos. I love Rey Mysterio. I think Dominic has been impressive. We've talked about him before on this podcast.
We have.
But I think the Usos retain here, and I think we start to see the crumbling of the Mysterio family and Dominic maybe turning on his dad because they've been planting those seeds of Rey saying like, no, you need to do this, do that, do da 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 da. So I think they're gonna keep losing, and Dominic's gonna be like, "Why the fuck am I gonna listen to you, old man?" Like, and then he's gonna whoop his ass, So I think I was listening to the new Ringer Wrestling podcast earlier today, and it was Ariel Helwani and Freddie Prinze Jr., who used to write for WWE, and they were saying, one of the guys on there, I forget who it was, but they said that they think Rey has like 5 great matches left in him, and he's going to dedicate them all to getting his son over. And I completely agree with that. I think we'll see maybe a WrestleMania match, and that'll be the big blow off between them. But I think it's definitely going to start now. And I'm excited to see that because I think Dominic will be able to flourish a little more as a heel. I think most people have universally said that it's a lot easier to play a heel than a good guy. So I think this is kind of where we start to see that that kind of turn, and it might not be all the way, like he might not beat the shit out of him here, but I think that's definitely where we start to see it. Brian, but again, Usos, I think go over.
I'm jotting some notes here. So Brian, what's your take?
I had the same exact thing what Tyler said in my notes. I have Dominic. They're starting to plant the seeds for a heel turn. I don't know if it'll happen at SummerSlam here or if it's just going to be like a slow build towards that, but I can definitely see Dominic turning heel and at some point and turning on Rey Mysterio. And I see the Usos retaining. I think they get over here. It'll be a good match, but the Usos retain.
All right.
Bloodline, baby. Bloodline stands strong.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm gonna stand against you on this one, boys. I'm gonna say that the Mysterios get their belts back. I'm gonna say that the seeds are being planted. They will lose the belts, but they won't lose them until Survivor Series, and then they're gonna start planting the seeds even more because it's closer to WrestleMania, timeline-wise. I'm taking
interesting. Okay.
the Mysterios. They'll give them one more run, and then you'll see it break down as they almost lose a couple matches, but barely pull it out, leading into Survivor Series. Who the hell they're going to challenge at Survivor Series, I don't know. But that's the next big pay-per-view that WWE has.
Well, so my thing with that is I think it, and I could see that, but I think it's going to be a slower build. I don't think they necessarily need to like start a Survivor Series and then really push it or anything like that, because I don't know if you guys remember back when Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio were the tag team champions back in 2005. That's like when I very first started wrestling or watching wrestling. So that time really like sticks out in my brain. But Eddie and Rey kind of, and Eddie's Dominic's real father, obviously.
Right.
So Eddie and Rey had kind of like a slow burn where you could tell Eddie was getting like a little frustrated with Rey, and like Rey would kind of one up him, and I could see a similar story being told here where the seeds are just from like months in advance. They're slowly being planted. You see Dominic get a little frustrated with his dad now. And they still continue to team for a couple more months. And maybe they do win the titles again. I could definitely see that as well. And then when they lose the titles, that's when Dominic snaps, because it's like, man, I've been listening to you and it's just not working, But, I think this is going to be a really slow burn, and they have the potential to really tell a great story here, which I feel like you don't hear that often anymore in the WWE.
And we're getting to some matches that don't tell a good story. But I will echo your point. I do believe that if the story keeps progressing this way with the Usos versus the Mysterios, and then the Mysterios slow burning, I think that story could be told very, very well. Let's see. We've got we've been talking for quite a while. This is a big card.
It is.
All right. You guys want to do the because I got a couple points on one of the women's matches, actually both, and a couple points on the two men's championship matches. How do you?
Let's start with the Raw Women's Championship. Can we talk that?
Championship. All right. The Raw Women's Championship is being defended at SummerSlam against Nikki Cross. I refuse to say the other nonsense. versus Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair. Now, before I get your guys' take on this, Tyler, Brian, I don't know if you've listened, but I believe 2 wrestling editions of the Soup Can, we talked about the same match. Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair. And we're getting it again. This time with Nikki Cross. Now,
well, they've been giving us these matches on Raw the past couple weeks anyway.
Exactly.
It's so silly. And
this is where the compelling story of everything we just talked about with the Usos and where they could go, and the Mysterios, where we see that going. I have nothing to add to this. We've seen Charlotte and Rhea since WrestleMania. Now we've seen Charlotte versus Nikki 2 weeks in a row. We've seen Rhea versus Flair. We've seen Nikki versus Rhea. We've
seen all of this before.
We've seen it. I don't believe, and this is just my opinion, I believe Flair does not win. She doesn't get pinned to save face, but I think she no-showed at a house show to go to her man's match at AAA, and her dad was there as well. I don't think she wins, but I also don't think she takes the pin. I want to say, sadly, that, and I love Rhea. I want to say, sadly, that Rhea's going to win, and then Flair's going to get another shot. And we're going to see Rhea versus Flair again. But my prediction is Rhea. The storytelling for this match has been because they've given it to us so many times every week since WrestleMania.
Well, and it's fine if you want to give us like similar things. You know, obviously you only have so many wrestlers that you can deal with, but you have to put a different spin on it. And it's been all the same. And all the same being in that there has been no storytelling. It's just, I don't like you, I'm gonna beat you. Okay, no, I don't like you, I'm gonna beat you. Da 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 da. Like
It's all
like it's just been silly. And you said you like Rhea Ripley. I'm good on Rhea Ripley, man. I'm just totally good on her. And maybe she was great in NXT. Like I think you guys are probably more into NXT than I am, but
there's
not
so
working
much
for me.
potential with the way she can go. I mean, she's good in the ring. Brian, you'll probably echo this. She's good in the ring. But again, she was called up, shoehorned into the title picture, and now she's not being used properly. There's no build. That's the
exactly. That's what I said earlier. These stars not being used right, and then being buried and not being used properly. And that could also be I think SmackDown's the better show between that and Raw.
Mm-hmm.
You just touched on it and hinted at it. There's been nothing. It's been redundant with these with Rhea Ripley, Charlotte, and then Nikki Cross. It's been the same thing over and over again. So
and can I ask, I have to interrupt you, Brian. Why did they change Nikki Cross?
I read that Vince McMahon, there was a potential for her character to go on these Make-A-Wish stuff, and it's like about the kids and the kids that watch wrestling or something like that. Okay. And there's a potential to market her character like that, but it's just with the older fans, it's I don't know, it's not over. It's dumb.
Well, there's a way to do it. It can be done. Like the Hurricane was over. You know, when he first debuted, the Hurricane was over, and that's the best thing that I can compare it to.
The Hurricane.
But what is almost a superhero? Why the fuck would I want to be almost a superhero? That's like an insulting almost. Like just be the superhero. Are you,
as smart as Tony Stark, but without the money, you can't get super suit.
Like I don't understand it. Like I thought the term was like fine. Like the change of the character was fine because I wasn't a huge like Nikki Cross fan. I thought she could go, but her character was just like a little stale for me.
We like each other. She's great.
Yeah, I mean she's fine, and like I understood why they changed the gimmick, but why are you doing almost a superhero? I think Charlotte even mentioned it when she was on commentary this past week. Like, why would I want to be almost anything? Like, it's just silly. And then she's just been taking L's ever since she has had this gimmick, and you know that's why I think she gets the win on Saturday. Because she's been taking so many L's, like she needs to. Like, how are you gonna have a champion that loses every time? Which I mean, I guess if she loses here, she'd lose the title. But I think she's gonna end up having to get the win.
Brian, who was your pick for this match?
I actually went with Rhea Ripley in this match.
Now,
so we got two Rheas and a Nikki.
Two Rheas and a Nikki. Screw Flair. I think Flair gets screwed over because she went down and she no-showed it at an event. Now, we'll get to the SmackDown Women's title, but Tyler, you and I again, and Brian again. I'm glad I got you here to get a third person's point of view on these wrestling shows. Hopefully, you'll join us next month so we can get. We've been saying for probably since WrestleMania, Tyler, since we've been doing this. When is Becky coming? Do we see Becky back at SummerSlam, and does she show up during the women's Raw Women's Championship match?
That's a very good question. It's been teased. She's been like kind of hinting at it on her Twitter, and then nothing's happening. And then there's pictures of her on Twitter of her in the gym getting ready. It's prime, man. It's prime. Either here or at some of the next pay-per-views, I can totally see her showing up. I think they're waiting for the fans to be at the shows because she's already over with the fans. She's like Stone Cold to the women's division. So it's just a matter of when. And I think they're keeping fans in the dark about that. I think she'll show up when the fans least expect it. So,
Tyler, do we see Becky at either one of these women's championship matches this Saturday?
I think we have to. If we don't see her now, then I'm not going to get my hopes up until Royal Rumble. Just because I think she's already teased it. I think like 2 or 3 times with I know Money in the Bank, whatever maybe the first one with fans was, and then even at WrestleMania she had like the night 1 or whatever it was.
Oh yeah.
So I mean she's teased it a lot of times. I think it's time. They're going to be in a huge stadium. I think I'm looking at it right now and they can see 60,000 in there. So, I mean, I think now is definitely the time because like Brian said, like she's huge with the fans. Like this is the time to get that big pop. And so I think if it's not now, it's going to be Royal Rumble because then that's the next best place to get that pop. But I think the whole point of having SummerSlam in a giant stadium like this is for moments like a Becky Lynch return because people are going to go absolutely ape shit if she does come back.
Now, I understand the feud between Flair and Becky. Do we get Becky on Raw, given how stacked Raw's women's division is right now with Flair, Ripley, Nikki Cross, who's good in the ring. You've also got Alexa Bliss. You've got the phenomenal Eva Marie.
I mean, I think it's got to be. Well, I guess I shouldn't say it's got to be on Raw, but I will say that I would lean more towards Raw just because of the storytelling with Charlotte. Although she does have a background with Sasha as well. I just fast forward a little ahead. I don't think Sasha's going to win on Saturday. So, and they already have opponents lined up for after SummerSlam for whoever wins the SmackDown Women's Championship with kind of Zelina Vega and Carmella kind of waiting in the wings there.
Yeah.
So I think it probably makes a little more sense to have her on Raw just because we don't really have any story going on past SummerSlam in the women's division. But you never know. I could see either. I think she's going to be a star and would be a great fit no matter which show she ends up on.
Ryan, do you think she shows up? You think she goes to the blue brand or the red brand when she comes?
It's got to be the Raw brand. There's too much talent on SmackDown. They have so much going on. There's, like Tyler said, there's other opponents lined up for Bianca at this point. So it has to be Raw. And there's potential for like so many matches with Becky on there. So it's Raw.
Yeah. And kind of just bouncing off what Brian said, that would give Raw at least one other like good, fun, interesting thing to happen. Like right now they got Lashley, they got the tag titles, and that's about it. So adding a female star out there that's really gonna throw some excitement into the show, that'd be big.
Now I'm gonna jump into the women's SmackDown title. Again, I'm gonna disclaimer: we are recording, pre-Friday night. I did hear rumor before this podcast that Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair are not available for SummerSlam because it's on Saturday. I don't know the exact wording of the rumor, but it is possible. Again, this is pre-Friday night. That Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks won't be on the card.
Why would they not be at SummerSlam?
They're not available. Was all the rumor said. Again, not my rumor that I started. That's what's on the interwebs. Tyler, pull up the Google because you got more means than I do. Because I just got a lowly soup can here. But I think Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks will put on a good match. I kind of want Banks to win. And do I want Banks to win? I don't even know. Yeah, you know what? I want Banks to win, and then I want a whole shitstorm with Zelina Vega and Carmella to take place on SmackDown. And you throw Naomi in the mix. You got a stacked women's roster on SmackDown. I'm going Banks because of all the backlash that could come back with Zelina Vega, who should finally get a shot and get a title. Screw Carmella. Even though it would be although it would be good storytelling, but she's already had her title. Give it to Vega.
Yeah, Zelina Vega's awesome. I like her a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's a talented. She's very talented in the ring. But I have Bianca retaining actually.
Okay.
So she might lose to Banks in another match down the line, but I think I have a feeling Bianca retains. Just the way she's been booked. She's been booked strong at this point. So
She really has.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think it's got to be Bianca, and I am seeing their status was up in the air, but I am seeing that as of 6 hours ago, they were cleared, and barring any unforeseen circumstances, they will be at SummerSlam and SmackDown on Friday.
Okay. That's
But it does not list what the issues were. I'm assuming it's got to be
like I said,
something with COVID and contact tracing, since it was so
a
sudden.
rumor that I heard the beginning of the week or end of the weekend that Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair were not available for SummerSlam.
They were pulled from a show. It did say that they were pulled from a live event. And again, I think it's got to be COVID, like contact tracing related, for it to come up so suddenly and then also be resolved so suddenly.
But again, I'm not the biggest Sasha Banks fan. Not that she's not good in the ring. It's her character hasn't evolved.
Man.
She's great in the ring. I love watching her in the ring. Her and Charlotte put on great matches. Her and Becky put on great matches. Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks is going to be a great match. I'm really hoping that Banks wins and then Vega and Carmella turn on her because they were her witnesses during the contract signing and beat down Belair. So there could be some fallout from there, but I think Banks' character just needs to grow a little bit.
I think that Sasha Banks is the biggest female star in wrestling, and deservedly so. She's a monster in the ring, a monster on the mic. I think she's a bigger star than Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch will get the bigger pop when she comes back.
You are on crack, Tyler.
Becky Lynch will get the bigger pop when she comes back, but Sasha Banks is the biggest female superstar.
Yeah, you're just saying that because you like the whole Snoop Dogg family.
No, man. She is a mainstream star. She was in The Mandalorian, dog. She's a star. She's the Roman Reigns of the women's division.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I give you Roman.
She is.
Reigns. I mean, she needs help, just like Roman Reigns needed Paul Heyman.
I don't think Sasha Banks needs help. I completely disagree. I love all of her work. I think the turn on Bianca was really well done, and it's kudos to Bianca for selling the shit out of that. Like, she looked like she was about to cry when Bianca had her in the bank statement.
Let me
Sasha.
Did the turn need to take place? The turn didn't need to happen because we all knew when Banks came back, she was getting that title shot. It didn't matter heel or face. One of WWE's problems is they won't do a face versus face title match.
Yeah, why would you want to?
Why not?
Because there's less to root for.
All right, Tom, I'm going back before you were born, son. One of the greatest face versus faces matches. Brian backed me up on this. The Ultimate Warrior.
I already knew you were gonna say that.
Okay, it was a shit show of a match. But
it was a 20-minute train wreck. Why the fuck would you want that again?
But the build to it and
exactly,
it was like the best. It was the best face versus face match. Like, I mean, the build to it.
I mean, you could even
it was
say
huge.
You could even
all we were talking about.
You could even say Bret Hart at the time versus Shawn Michaels in that Iron Man match. Yeah, I think Bret Hart was more or less the heel, so to speak, but Bret Hart was still over. And you're taking two faces. It's all about how it's built.
Exactly.
They left Sasha Banks as a face when she came back and just challenged Bianca Belair with like a firm attitude, I guess. Then fine, build it that way. You don't need to.
But she's a heel. She's always been a heel. Sasha's never been a face. Never been a face and been good, I should say.
Fair. That's enough on that match. Now we got the two greatest matches of all time happening at SummerSlam.
One of them is up there.
Right.
One of them is
Tyler, Tyler, I know you had some things to say. This has been the best wrestling edition ever, man. We're killing it, guys.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna let Tyler.
Sorry, one more thing. I'm sorry. I'm looking at my notes right now, and I had one more thing on Sasha Banks.
Okay.
I will agree. It's getting a little played out about how she's got to call everybody a bitch every week. Like, I don't think that's necessary. Like, just always say bitch like every single time. We don't got to do that anymore.
I agree with you that is highly unnecessary. It is.
Sorry, I had to throw that out there.
It is a very heel thing to do, but unnecessary. Now, Tyler, you would text me earlier, or this maybe it was yesterday or the day before. I don't remember. That's earlier than today. That you had some things to talk about on one of these championship matches. So I'm going to let you pick which one we talk about first, so we make sure we get to your points, and Brian and I will build off that. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I could definitely talk about both of these matches, but I think the one that offers more talking points is Lashley versus Goldberg.
Okay. We'll start there. Let's do Lashley.
And this, I might have to lean on you guys a little more for this one, because Goldberg was fine when he came back against Lesnar. It was a flash in the pan, a lightning strike, something different that we hadn't seen. Goldberg has gotten so played out at this point. He is just one of the performers that I'm not going to call him one of the worst performers, but he's one of the performers that I want to watch the least, because his matches have been absolutely horrible outside of the one versus Lesnar at WrestleMania 33. And they've just been finishing moves. That's it. Like, he's just trying to get a spear. There's no actual working in the match. He gets on a mic and says, nonsense. Okay, I want the champion. That's it. Doesn't actually say anything. The dude is on television. He hosts television shows. He can talk. Give him something to work with. Like, that's the one thing. He can't work, but he can talk. And they just give him absolute dog shit to work with. And it's just been horrible. So what I texted you the other day is that the only thing that should happen in this match is Lashley needs to squash Goldberg in 2 to 3 minutes. Just no offense from Goldberg. Build Lashley as your monster champion, and Goldberg's career. It's over.
All right.
Get Lashley over. That's his swan song.
So you've got Lashley. Hey, Brian, don't you think it's cute that he says Goldberg versus Lesnar is something we haven't seen? That's cute, kid.
Yeah, we've seen it before, but this was definitely a different spin on it. I mean, it was 12 years after the fact.
Brian,
they were totally different guys back then.
How old are you, Tyler? 28?
Oh no, I'll be 26 next month.
I was close. All right, now you roll your eyes, Brian, but the knowledge that Tyler actually has for all wrestling is pretty in depth. So I joke with him about his age. Yeah. I joke with him about.
So, like, can you guys explain Goldberg to me? Because I know he was 173-0, undefeated in WCW.
Numbers.
Oh, absolutely. But Goldberg was he was a star in WCW.
He was.
And I just don't get it. I don't get it.
What, Brian, you can help me out with this. What Goldberg did for wrestling at that time was, I guess you could say, revolutionary, because it was different. It was in the Monday Night Wars. NWO was still a thing. He came in and he just ran roughshod, never lost. He beat Glacier, who at the time was undefeated. But
I've seen Glacier wrestle, actually.
When Goldberg came in and exploded and took off, you're in the middle of the Monday Night Wars.
Yes, he came in at a time. Now, when the NWO started, it was hot. But then it started to get a little bit redundant and a little bit overplayed. And then you had Goldberg come into the mix, and it was something different. And they were building on his undefeated streak, like you said, beating Glacier, Canyon, all these guys that come in and wanted to try to beat him. And Goldberg ran roughshod. And then all of a sudden, there's that match against Hogan, and the fans popped so loud for Goldberg finally beating Hogan and winning the championship. The Monday, or when Goldberg lost, though, that's when it started going downhill. When Goldberg lost to I think it was Kevin Nash, and then Kevin Nash losing to Hogan, finger poke of doom, and
Oh,
that's
God.
that's a whole nother
That's-
like wrestling show. But
We'll do
Yeah.
a wrestling history edition. That's
exactly. But like, yeah, Goldberg was something different at that time, and you wanted to see
and,
what he did next. So
What's the big difference now? Would you guys say?
what
between then
happened
and
was,
now?
and I was going to touch on this as you asked the question. When Goldberg came to WWE for his first run after WCW was purchased by WWE, he was used semi-right. But he still wasn't used. And I think, Brian, you can help me out here because I don't think, Tyler, you were watching just yet. That match against Brock Lesnar, when
I've seen that match at WrestleMania 20.
the crowd turned so hard they only wanted to see Austin. Like
exactly true.
And-
They turned on him. They turned on both like that, and they just they wanted to see Austin like beat the crap out of him. Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
Goldberg is an anomaly in the wrestling world because he's not the greatest in-ring technician. He's got a lot of energy, a lot of hype, but that's kind of lost now. Like you said, Tyler, with the build for this match, he's been on TV twice.
Yeah, I think so. With his
showed up
goofy
and-
kid.
He, he showed up and said, "I'm next" or whatever, and then you don't see him for 2 weeks, and you got SummerSlam coming up in 4 weeks, and he finally shows up on the homecoming show leading into SummerSlam, and I don't even know what he did. I fell asleep.
He pretty much speared Lashley, and he brought out his son, and then they walked towards the back. So Goldberg getting over on Lashley twice, that leads me to believe that Lashley's going to win this match and go over on Goldberg. So
I'm gonna just for kicks, I'll just say Goldberg. I don't care. Lashley has no business wrestling Goldberg. Lashley deserves so much better.
I agree.
And then at the probably the second biggest pay-per-view, one of the top 4 pay-per-views that WWE still puts on, Lashley deserves a much bigger moment than Goldberg with fans in attendance. And that goes on to one of my points I have here is WWE relying on the old guard. Now, granted, Lashley's 45. He's no spring chicken, but he's not Goldberg. He's not.
And Lashley's character is new. So Lashley, even though he's older, he's still fresh.
Exactly. I think WWE bringing in some of these guys and even bringing back John Cena and putting him in against Roman Reigns. I think they're relying too heavily on guys like that. I know the generational gap in wrestling between Goldberg and Cena is huge, but Cena is one of the old guard in WWE right now.
He's a part-timer.
He's definitely a part-timer, that's for sure. I think WWE needs to worry less about these guys and start building your talent. Like they had Finn Balor all set to challenge Roman Reigns. And see my transition there, boys? For this championship match. But I love that Baron Corbin broke it up. But do they not know how contracts work? Shouldn't their names have already been on the line? And then all I got to do is just sign it? It's like any Joe Blow can sign it. And it's like, okay, I'm in a title match.
The lack of continuity with these with the WWE officials, Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville, I could care less. I don't need to see them anymore because it's like, oh, we make the matches around here. They said to Zelina Vega, but then John Cena could just run in and do whatever.
Right.
I'm like, okay, that's John Cena, but like,
Well,
yeah, that
stupid.
made absolute no sense whatsoever.
And part of me believes that bringing these two cats back, Cena and Goldberg, one of them has to win the belt. One of them is beating one of these kids.
That's a very good point. You bring them back like this with
lose
and hyping them up with especially like you that's all you see on the ads. It's all you've been seeing at these shows. The summer of Cena, Goldberg coming back. Yeah, one of them's got to win the title. One of them's going to go over. So
now I lean more towards Goldberg over Cena because a loss to Roman Reigns at SummerSlam doesn't hurt Cena's illustrious career. I'm sorry. The only way I see Cena winning is to break Ric Flair's record and become the 17-time champion.
Yeah, I agree with that point. But I think with the way they're building Cena, I think he does get over. But like you said, Cena losing, it doesn't hurt his legacy at all. And it helps Reigns get over more as a heel. So,
I was just gonna say, like, I see where you guys are coming from with, like, they're bringing these two huge stars from the past back, and one of them probably has to go over. But I don't think now's the time for either of them. Like, Lashley is so hot right now.
Yep, I agree.
And Goldberg is just not, at least for the in the know wrestling fans, the smart fans. That's the word I was looking for.
And Cena has even come out and said, like, WWE relying on him and all these older stars, they're going to be in trouble because they're not developing these other stars, these other younger talent up to be in the main picture, in the main storyline. So
and that's why I think they're both going to lose. Like, I don't think Goldberg stands a chance. I think Goldberg has to retire after this. Lashley needs to squash Goldberg, and Goldberg still has enough star power as to where I think that really can, like, shotgun Lashley. And Cena is, like you said, Brian, it's the summer of Cena. Like, I haven't seen anything. Like, I don't think they're going to get John Cena. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen Suicide Squad, but it was fucking awesome. And he's got this new series coming out. Like, I don't think you're keeping him for that long. I guess maybe if they want to do, like, a transitional champion, because the last time he won the title, he only held it for like a month when he won his 16th against AJ Styles. I mean, I guess I could see them doing something similar, but I think Roman is just a monster right now. Roman's the face of the company, best wrestler in the world. I don't think there's any stopping him.
I mean, I can see Roman Reigns losing by DQ. And Cena's still winning.
Especially with the bloodline getting involved somehow. I could see a DQ. I can definitely see that. Yeah.
It would be nice to see Roman walk out with the title. With the title. Roman, I don't know who's going to beat either one of these two cats if it doesn't happen at SummerSlam. There's got to be some big return down the line or some big acquisition that's going to come in, because you give it to Randy Orton again. That's kind of lackluster if Randy Orton's the one to dethrone Lashley or I mean, I thought it would be cool. Like, give it time. Let Baron Corbin be the one to beat Roman Reigns. Let him somehow be that Money in the Bank guy.
What about, like, Karrion Kross? Develop him into this, like, unstoppable force. And what they're doing with him is just plain dumb. But
hey, come on, man. He's
built him up to like challenge Lashley, to challenge Roman Reigns, man. The guy's very talented. I really liked his work in NXT. So, that's just me.
All right. So we got two Romans and a Cena for the final match that we discussed. There's been, with this card, in my opinion, there's been a lot of lack of buildup for some of these matches. Just to give a quick recap, not gonna drag it out, but I think some of these matches that are non-title matches, I think the Seth versus Edge could be a great match. Finn versus Corbin would be a great match because those two are great in the ring. Drew versus Jinder is going to be a solid match between those two guys. But overall, if just going off these matches, the title matches are not going to be very long matches as far as the men's. If just looking at the card here, I would, if it delivers, I'd give the pay-per-view a B-. If it delivers.
I don't know, man. I could see this being a monster card. I like a lot of the matches in here, and like I think Reigns Cena is going to be fantastic. Lashley Goldberg, if it goes how I kind of hope it goes, I think that could be fantastic. Both tag team matches. Drew Jinder will probably be okay, and then Seth and Edge. The only ones I'm not really interested in are Eva Marie versus Alexa Bliss and Sheamus versus Damien Priest and the Raw Women's Championship match. But other than that, I mean, I think 7 out of those 10 matches are going to be really good.
If Lashley does squash, but I'm sticking with my pick of Goldberg, and Brian will come to you for your recap. If Lashley squashes Goldberg, I'm not gonna lie, I'll mark out pretty hard.
Yeah, but shit, I mean, if there's anybody that's going to beat a deserving champion that should keep the title, it's gonna be Goldberg. So fuck, I guess maybe he might take it.
Who knows?
But I think if it delivers, it'll be a C. But if Becky Lynch comes back, especially during the Raw Women's Championship match, like at the end, and makes an appearance, I probably would give it a B if she shows up. So,
I mean, I love the diversity with the ratings. Brian, Tyler, I'm gonna wrap this up here. We got Brian and I have AEW to go watch.
Yes.
Guys, I appreciate you coming on. Sadly, I will not be watching SummerSlam live. I will have to watch it on a replay because I will be out on Saturday night.
Because you're so popular, like we talked about at the beginning.
No, I'm roped into a bags tournament. They needed another player, so it's bottom of the list.
Yeah, my weekend
Feral Billy is
well,
what they call it. Thank you for coming on, guys. This was a little bit longer than I thought we were going to go for, but adding that second guest, Brian, thank you so much on such short notice.
You're welcome, man.
I look forward to having you guys on next month for a recap show and to discuss any other wrestling news that may come up. Again, this has been the Soup Can. I'm your host, Campbell's. If you want to reach out and come on the Soup Can, you can DM me on the Facebook or the Instagram. Reach out to me via email at thesoupcanwithcampbells@yahoo.com. Tyler, Brian, again, thank you so much for coming in the Soup Can and asking Soup No O with WWE and wrestling for the last couple of months. You guys have a good night. Again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Yep.
And thank you for listening to the Soup Can, where we ask the burning question, Soup No O.